Okay, I'm going to start over. Hello, everybody. I did hit record now. This is Bonnie Giller, and we're here for Q&A as a follow-up to our wonderful webinar from yesterday. Q&A, Ask Me Anything About Intuitive Eating. I do have several questions that have come in already. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to take your questions live, and I'm also going to answer the questions that came in. I have, my printed them out, so I have them here. Before I hit record, what I was sharing is that we're going to be a small group right here. And so if you feel comfortable to share or to show up on camera so I can get to know you, you can get to know everybody else, then that's great. It's always nice to see a face behind a name, but no pressure. You certainly do not have to do that. You can use the chat box. Right now, everybody is on mute, so we get a clean recording. And so you can use the chat box if you'd like, or because we're going to be a small group right here, if you do have a question or you have a response or a follow-up question to anything that I'm going to share with you, by all means, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and then we can actually talk back and forth. So what I was saying earlier before I hit recording is that this is very similar to how a group coaching Q&A call would go in any of my courses and programs, where we meet in a small group on Zoom and we really get to converse back and forth and support each other. Okay, so with that said, for those of you who are currently here, can you share with me, and again, you could use the chat box, you can unmute, whatever you feel best doing. Can you share with me, were you on our webinar last night? That's the first thing. I know that you were signed up for it because that's how you know the login information today. So I'm just kind of curious if you were actually there with me live, or you were you listened to the replay. So I know I did get some emails, by the way, that the passcode didn't work for some people for some reason. And so just so you know, I have just, right before I got on this call, I have put that replay onto another page, and I have a link that I will be sending out after this Q&A, so you can access the replay without a passcode. So just watch your email and I will get that sent to you ASAP. Yafa says you missed it. Okay, so you have the replay, so hopefully you'll get to listen to the replay. Margaret was on for most, system cut out for a few minutes. I know some people did have some trouble. Okay, great. So
yes. I was on yesterday.
Bertha, hi, is that your correct name?
Yes.
Yes, hi, nice to meet you. You were on, awesome. Where are you calling in from?
Silver Spring, Maryland.
Oh, I remember you because you were the first one to ask yesterday.
Right.
And yes, great. Well, we had a lot of people on yesterday, so I thought it was easy to use the chat box. But right now we're a small group, so I'm happy to hear voices. I love when I can talk directly to people. Okay, so, and we have Kelsey here, my lovely assistant, my right hand, my left hand. I can't do anything without her. So she's going to continue to let people in as we go forward on our Q&A today. So what I'd like to do is I will alternate between a question that came in that I have here on the sheet, and then a question that perhaps you have that you'd like to ask me live. I want to try to get to all the questions. I know that intuitive eating is something that is new for a lot of people. So if you are here with me live, share with me. And again, you could type this into the chat box if you want, or you can just unmute yourself. Is intuitive eating new for you? That's really an important question, because that's very helpful for me to know when I'm working or talking with people. Is intuitive eating something that is very new to you? Have you heard about it before? Have you previously done work around intuitive eating? Let me know either by unmuting or by just typing into the chat box.
I have not heard about it.
Okay, and just repeat, who's that speaking? Say the name.
Rivka.
Rivka. Okay, Rivka.
Yes.
So you've not heard about intuitive eating before. Okay. And I believe, Rivka, you were the one I was just emailing with. So I'm going to get you that link so you can watch the replay.
And okay, really thank you.
A lot more. Perfect. Okay. So intuitive eating then, So for those who aren't familiar with it, and for those who haven't yet listened to the replay, let me give you a short little blurb about intuitive eating. So when I read these questions, you'll have a better understanding of how I'm answering. So intuitive eating it's a self-care eating framework where we eat based on our physiological need to eat versus eating based on emotions and based on situations we're in. So we're all born intuitive eaters, right? We have this innate wisdom that we're born with when we're hungry to know when we're hungry to eat and when we're satisfied to stop eating. And unfortunately, due to a lot of different reasons, one of the biggest reasons being diet culture that we live in, people have moved away from being an intuitive eater, from listening to their inner signals as their guide to eating. And unfortunately, what happens is they lose the trust in themselves. And so they therefore don't trust that they can make food choices. They can't trust themselves to know what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, unless they're following a pre-printed plan or rules. All these rules are rules that are what? Outside of your own body. These are external rules that are dictating what you're eating. And so at the end of the day, we want to come back to being an intuitive eater. And so I shared on the webinar last night 3 steps to eating for healthy living using the intuitive eating blueprint. So basically, I know most of us are interested in our health. And I will just take a moment to say there are some people that are not interested in their health, and that's their right. But for the most part, the people that are driven to me and the work that I do want to improve their health. And they are either they're told or they have a belief that in order to improve health, they need to diet to lose weight. And what we know is that diets just don't work long term and they're not sustainable. And because we've really focused so much on diets all the years to try to get us that health, in essence, it really backfires because the on and off, the yo-yo dieting and the weight cycling actually worsens our health. It causes inflammation in the body. It causes insulin resistance, and it has poorer cardiovascular outcomes. There are studies and plenty of research now that we have today to show us this and to back this up. And so the idea is, can we learn to eat for healthy living without dieting? And that answer is yes, through this concept of intuitive eating, which is how I explained it, intuitive eating, allowing our body to guide our eating. However, because we live in diet culture and because we're so like swimming in the diet culture waters, the very first thing we need to do, because there are 3 steps that I shared last night, the very first thing that we really need to do is to dismantle our diet mentality. We've got to really fight back against the diet culture because we have a lot of messages and a lot of beliefs that are swimming in our head that guide our decisions around food, what to eat, and so forth. And so very important, if we don't get rid of our diet mentality, really shift out of that diet mentality, then it's going to be very difficult to make choices for yourself that actually honor your health. So that was step 1. Step 2 was about self-care, really being sure that self-care is put to the front of that, the burner. In other words, it's not on the back burner, it's on the front burner. It's bringing it up on the totem pole and fighting back against the inner critic messages. This is important so that your basic needs of self-care are met without the noise in our head saying, no, you shouldn't do this, so that you could attune to those inner signals of hunger and fullness. And so then finally, the 3rd step is listening to your inner wisdom and not listening, and stop listening to others and diets and what they tell you to eat. I just got off the phone with a client prior to our call, and he had shared with me, because I do work with men as well as women, he had shared with me, well, my friend told me to not eat da 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 da. And so that's what happens. We listen to others, and that friend was really wrong. And plus, that friend is crossing a boundary, right? We need to protect our own boundaries. We have the right to make our own choices, but unfortunately, we're influenced by people and diets and other things that we see in the media. And so stopping to listen to all the noise that's out there and really, that'll allow you to come back into into your inside, into your inner being, so you can allow yourself to listen to what your body is guiding you. And a very quick example, I mean, if I don't know from those who are on our call today, or, maybe those listening to this replay, if you, you may not remember when you were a child, but if you have children, if you have grandchildren, you may see your children and grandchildren in action as an intuitive eater. Because when you're a baby, the baby knows when they're hungry. The baby has different cries. And so when there's a hunger cry, mom usually, or caretaker usually, oh, the baby's hungry, I have to feed the baby. And the baby doesn't speak, right? But the baby, how does the baby know? Because the baby has that signal that they're born with that guides them to say, Ma, I need to eat, I'm hungry. And when they're satisfied, they push away the breast, the bottle, the spoon. And that's also innate. They know that I'm done, I'm full. Mom says, oh, baby didn't eat so much, I got to feed that person, more. And so no, says, got to get more of this bottle, got to get more than a spoon. I don't know. I mean, I was a young mom, and unfortunately I did this to my kids because I didn't know about intuitive eating back then. And I would, play the games with the spoon, right? To try to get them to eat. Open up, the airplane's coming, but the lips were pierced. What message does that send to our children, our grandchildren, whoever we're feeding, is that, oh, I'm full. I'm giving a message to mom or grandma that I'm done, but they want me to eat more. I must not be able to trust my own inner wisdom, my own signals. And that can really start the process of moving further away from being able to trust in this. Okay, so that was the gist of what we were talking about last night. And then, of course, I invited you into my new course, Intuitive Eating Basics, for people who really just want to get a better taste of what intuitive eating is. They want to dip their toes into it. They're not yet ready to go into a full-on program, but like, really, what is it and how do I integrate it? And so that was, what I invited you into at the end. So I'm going to now start to look and answer these questions, and then I will open up the floor to you if you have any questions as well. Got a lot of questions here. The first question, and if you have any questions as I'm speaking, please use the chat box, and Kelsey's monitoring it and I will monitor it so that to make sure that I will answer your questions based on your questions to what I'm saying. Okay, first question, how do I handle quote unquote diet when faced with health issues like high cholesterol or prediabetes, and you're looking to not exacerbate these issues? So the question is from somebody who says, look, I've got high cholesterol, I've got high blood sugar levels, it's prediabetes, I don't quite want to end up with diabetes. What do I do? Because all the recommendations that I've been told from doctors is to lose weight to manage these conditions. So that's an important question. So if anybody here on this call can, relate to that, definitely put that in the chat box. So one of the things that I feel very, very strongly about is what we call weight neutral care. So weight neutral, and I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live and another training. I'm going to write a blog about this for next week. So definitely make sure you get to my Diet Free Radiant Me website, because every Wednesday a blog goes live on a different topic. So weight neutral diabetes care, weight neutral care for all health conditions is a passion of mine. And so what that basically means is we focus on habits and behaviors. We do not focus on losing weight to improve health. Because what happens is when you focus only on losing weight to improve your health, okay, so maybe through diet you lose weight and your numbers will go down. But because we know that 95 to 97% of people who go on a diet and intentionally lose weight through restriction, they regain it. You will likely regain that weight because the diets generally are not sustainable. And then what happens? Those numbers go back up. And again, that up and down is much more detrimental to your health. So it is absolutely possible through weight neutral care to improve your health by focusing on various habits and focusing on behaviors and allowing whatever weight needs to come off your body because it's above what is a natural set point for you, that just allows it to come off more naturally. So one of the phrases, I'm pretty sure I used it last night in the webinar, and I'll use it again. One of the things I like to say is weight loss is not a behavior, it's an outcome of habit and behavior change. So that's really very, very important. Okay, question 2. If one person is following intuitive eating, how would you handle meal and food prep for members that are not? I think this question actually came in twice, a very similar question. Let me just go over my questions and look at that. Yeah, this is a common question. Okay, so that's a really great question. But I also always like to look at the words in the question. I like to look at, is there anything in that question that is shouting at me diet mentality? So when I'm looking at the question and it says if one person is following intuitive eating, so right there I stop and I go, the word following is actually a diet reflective of a diet mentality. So what does that mean? When you're following something, then all of a sudden something happens, a situation or a trigger, and you're not following it anymore. So intuitive eating is not something we follow or don't follow. It is a practice. We begin to learn how to incorporate intuitive eating back into our life. We begin to reignite that intuitive eater from within, and then we continue to practice being an intuitive eater. So if you are someone in your household who has given up dieting because you see that it has never worked and is actually damaging, then, and you are practicing intuitive eating, or like I like to say for many of my clients, you're an intuitive eater in training, right? If other people in your household are on diets, they are not practicing intuitive eating or looking to train to be an intuitive eater because they're still hooked on the promises, might I say, the false promises of diets, it can be challenging for you, is what I'm assessing from this question. So here's the answer to that. You are honoring your own food choices and desires. If this individual, and you can clarify this question if you'd like. I actually know who asked it, but I don't want to call the individual out. You are here. So if you want to ask any, clarify further if the other family members in the home are actually dieting, because then that's where you're saying the challenge could be. I actually, right now, one of my clients, I'm thinking of her in particular, actually two, but the one I want to talk about, she very specifically has that situation because it's only her and her husband at home. And she is recovering from binge eating disorder. And she is learning to become an intuitive eater again. Yet her husband has not come on board and he is still, quote unquote, trying the dieting, right? So he is on his diet. So he eats very different than she does. And so, you know what? So be it. She needs to, and I give this guidance to her and I give this guidance to you as well. You continue to allow all foods into your life as you work on becoming an intuitive eater. And the other individual in the household can also choose to eat or not to eat. That's it. So you do what's right for you, and you know that you've given up dieting. So it's very important not to be pressured to eat or to eat in a way that is not true to you. So based on the way the question was asked, number one, we want to be sure that intuitive eating is not turning into a diet. So do you remember on the webinar last night, I was speaking about that. I was speaking about one of the things that I figured out after working with intuitive eating in the beginning was what? That people were turning intuitive eating into another diet as rules. And so we want to make sure we're not doing that. So based on the information that I was able to get from that question without further speaking to this individual, that's what I'm sharing. So please clarify for me if there's anything further you would like me to answer on that question. Okay, the next question is, I find I overeat at events such as weddings or parties because I'm eating food that I normally would not be able to get. I want to taste everything. Any ideas how to stop this? So here's the thing. It's not, the first thing again that always jumps out at me, remember, is the verbiage, is the language. Okay. What does that mean to stop this? To stop this really, really means that you're basically you're trying to get yourself to do something you don't want to do. And that very much is reflective of diet mentality as well. So that's the first thing. Let's look at the language that we're using. And when I work with my clients, that's something that when we're dismantling the diet culture messages, we're always looking at the language. And that, by the way, in the first live module training in this Intuitive Eating Basics course that we're doing, we will be dismantling diet culture messages. And part of that is being able to identify when you are speaking or thinking as a dieter. Very important. So that's the first thing as far as that question. The other thing about the question is when we feel that there's foods that we won't be able to eat, that we have access to now, we feel this future deprivation coming up. And future deprivation always, in more times than not, leads to what we call rebound eating, which is basically overeating or binge eating. And so there's two things you can do to kind of think about this, right? If you're at this party and you see this food and you say, I would not normally be able to get it, is that because you're generally on a diet or you don't allow yourself to eat those foods because in your mind you've labeled them as bad or unhealthy? So that goes back to the diet mentality and really unlearning and stopping to label foods as good and bad, healthy or unhealthy. And the second piece of that is giving yourself unconditional permission to eat. Now, I don't think I talked too much about that on the webinar last night, but that is something we'll tap into in the course. Unconditional permission to eat, allowing yourself to eat all foods. That is a very scary thing for people to do who have been following diets for a long time. And I totally understand that. But once you work on becoming an intuitive eater and you are able to give yourself unconditional permission to eat, the fear of overeating and the drive to eat in excess in this moment because I can get this now and I don't know when I'll be able to get it again goes away. It lessens. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far on anything that I'm saying? Please go ahead and use the chat box. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, always say who it is before you speak so I can make the connection, please.
Okay, I'm Bertha Spiro.
Bertha, yes. Hi.
I understand the intuitive plan, whatever you want to call it, as opposed to diets. However, don't we need guidelines of what is the best food to eat or the food that we should not eat? And the second part is, how do you know when you're full? Most people overeat.
Yeah. So let me answer the first question first. Let me remind myself what your question was. You see, my brain sometimes needs one at a time. Okay, let me go.
Don't we need guidelines?
Guidelines. Okay, guidelines to what to eat or not to eat. So, okay, so here's one of the things I'm going to share about that. Most people who've been dieting for a while can write the book about nutrition. Most people actually know what is quote unquote healthy and not healthy, meaning you know what's nutrient rich and what's low in nutrients. You generally know that. But and I'm not necessarily talking to you, Bertha, because I don't know you at this point. So I'm addressing you, but really collectively,
Right.
Those who've been dieting really forget that they have that knowledge because the diets have caused them to lose this trust in themselves. Having said that, I do believe that, yes, there is still much to learn about nutrition and what foods can enhance our health versus others. But here's the thing. With intuitive eating, when we're recovering from dieting, if we begin this process to gain back the ability to be an intuitive eater, if we begin this process with, Bonnie, tell me what to eat and what not to eat, tell me what's healthy for me and what's not healthy for me. As a dieter, you hear this as rules. And when we hear it as rule, even though it sounds logical, the diet mentality creates that as rules. And then if you don't follow the rule because you went on a vacation, you had a stressful day, there was something that came up, you I'll start again tomorrow. We fall back into the vicious cycle. So that is why nutrition is a huge, first of all, look, first and foremost, my first degree was in nutrition. So as a registered dietitian, nutritionist, I'm loving nutrition. I talk about nutrition all the time. But if you're a chronic dieter and you have a strong diet mentality, any nutrition talk is heard as rules. I should, I shouldn't, I must, I have to. And that's all part of diet mentality. Now, when I take clients through my whole body trust program, so as I said to you yesterday, whole body trust, intuitive eating for a peaceful life is my signature program to help people come back to a place of peace with food and their body through intuitive eating. It is a 6-step process, and I take clients through that on a one-to-one basis, but also in a group setting, and that group program runs once a year every January. So that's not available now as a group, but if anybody's interested to learn more on a one-on-one, by all means, contact me about that. I do it throughout the year. The last step in that 6-step process, which is why I'm saying about it actually, the last step is nourish your body. Let's talk about nutrition. Let's talk about movement. Let's talk about the guidelines. But because by then you've gone through all the other steps and you've regained trust and you've shifted your mindset and all of that, you can have that conversation with me about learning about nutrition because you really are an intuitive eater at that point. But when you are starting this journey and you are sitting with a strong diet mentality, that is very difficult. So that's the first piece of that. But let me also say that, and this actually will answer your second point. I'll kind of now meld those questions together. The second question you had is, how do you tell when you're hungry? I mean, when you're full. So most people, you are absolutely correct. If when I ask people, when do you stop eating? And they say, when I'm full. And I say, well, actually, you know what? We really want to try to stop eating before we're full. We want to be comfortably full or comfortably satiated. Now, that is a very difficult sensation for dieters to feel, but you can learn it. That's the point, reigniting what that feels like. Because if you generally keep yourself in this, you eat when you become ravenous, because that's what dieters typically do. You know, they think I shouldn't eat now. I shouldn't be hungry now. I ate 2 hours ago. It's not time. It's not lunchtime on my clock. It's not lunchtime. So I shouldn't be hungry now. And so eventually what happens is they arrive at the meal in an over hungry state. Whenever we begin a meal, it doesn't matter who it is. If we begin a meal in an over hungry state, we're going to end the meal generally in an overfull state. We're not going to be able to tap into those intuitive signals. And so part of this process is reconnecting with hunger and then fullness. Hunger has to come first. We have to understand what the first signs of hunger actually feel like, reconnect with those signals, use mindful eating techniques to really help with the process. And ultimately, then you learn what the comfortable fullness feels like. So I can't sit here and say to you, oh, this is how you stop eating when you're full. This is what you do. It's something that has to get reignited, which again, I think, Kelsey, what was that module 3, 4? I forget which training that is in the Intuitive Eating Basics program. We do learn to reconnect with those signals, that the hunger signal has been silenced. I should say this, the hunger signal is what we call silence. The gentle sensations of hunger. That's the very first signs of hunger have been silenced from years of dieting. That's what we want to connect with, because most people totally know what over hungry feels like. Like when we get to oh my God, I need to eat now. I need to eat something. I'm so hungry. Like we've all been there. So that's reconnecting with the gentle hunger. And then that is, stopping when we're comfortably full. And so there was another point that I wanted to say. Okay, so now connected to your first question, I can totally go on and on about these topics. I love talking about it. I hope this is giving some people clarity. To connect that to your first question, which was, oh God.
Guidelines.
Yeah, thank you. See, thank you. Okay. When first working with people that really haven't used their inner signals for a long time and who actually have no idea how to eat, quote unquote, how to eat. They really know, but they forgot or they don't trust because, what we said, sometimes we have to put some gentle, flexible guidelines in place, not as a diet, but as a form of self-care. Because nourishing ourselves in a consistent basis is very important to keep us well, to keep us energized, and also to be able to ignite the inner signals that we're trying to listen to, right? The nutrition is really important. So in certain cases, and that is looked at as on an individual basis, some structure for certain people is actually necessary. And I do that with people, as I said, on an individual basis, based on their history and where they're coming in. So thank you for those questions. Did that help at all?
Yeah, one more.
Okay, go for it.
So where do we fit in some things that are not so nutritious, like ice cream or cake or Chinese food?
Yeah. So great question. For those of you who know me, they'll know what I'm about to say. For those who don't know me, you're going to learn something new about me. I love ice cream. So I'm a big fan of including ice cream. We call those foods fun foods. So you as a dieter may think of those foods as junk food. I don't call them junk because fun foods have a very important role in our lives. And that is what we call taste pleasure. They taste good. And it's very important for us to have pleasure in our eating, which, by the way, people forget about. We're so focused on eating foods for our health or for weight loss that we actually forget we're supposed to enjoy our food. So those are fun foods that you learn through this process of intuitive eating, how to incorporate in addition to nutritious foods, foods that are rich in nutrition, how do we incorporate these fun foods in a way that feels balanced and feels good in our body? So that is something we learn. But I will tell you that in the very beginning, if we're labeling foods as good and bad, healthy, unhealthy, then what ends up happening is you're still dieting. And so in the very beginning part of intuitive eating, in the beginning journey, what happens is our goal is for foods to become emotionally equal. We know that an apple is more nutrient rich than apple pie. We know that. We all, whoever's here now and who's ever listening on replay, you all know that an apple is more nutritious than apple pie. But if we continue to make choices with only that knowledge, we're still having conditions on our food, which will eventually lead us to, oh my God, I want that apple pie. And I just was stressed and I'm just going to have a piece and oh, forget it. I'll finish it. I'll start again tomorrow. That's what we don't want. So in the very beginning of intuitive eating, we do allow ourselves to eat these foods. And then eventually we come to a place where we say, oh, I don't have to eat all of this now. I know I can have it. I know I can have it. I'll share something with you. There's this pendulum we talk about, right? When you're dieting, the pendulum of restriction is all the way up here. You're restricting, right? So here's where the pendulum is. When you decide to say yes to intuitive eating, and the what are these called? The handcuffs come off. And it's like, I'm out of prison. I'm out of diet prison. Bring it on. What did you say? Chinese and ice cream and cake and pastries, whatever it is, right? The pendulum might swing for you all the way up there. We call it donut land. And now you mean like, okay, bring it on, bring it on. I'm going to eat this every single day. I can't believe it. I can eat it. This is great. But eventually you almost, not everybody goes through that, but some people do. And then you eventually come to a place where that pendulum starts to swing back down into neutral. Like, oh, I don't have to eat that every day. Or you know what? Not feeling so great eating it every day. And I know I could eat it again anytime I want. So I don't have to eat it this way. And all of a sudden you come back. I'll share with you. When I'm working with clients, private clients in my group program, we have a WhatsApp chat in addition to a community forum, again, off of Facebook and social media, because I know a lot of people don't like that. Does everybody know what WhatsApp is? Probably most people do. So she writes, today we were talking about wins because we celebrate wins. And I just want to tell you what she wrote because, let me get to it, because that was a really great. Oh, she says, the pendulum is now more centered from when I embarked on this journey. While I know I can eat everything, I now can eat less of it because I have a greater sense of my body, quote unquote, speaking to me. So amazing. So proud of her. So that's eventually what you learn when you make that decision to say, okay, I'm not going to label foods good, bad, healthy, unhealthy, and I'm going to learn this process of intuitive eating. Oh gosh, there's a big question here. And did that help? Was that
Yes.
okay? Good.
Thank you.
Bertha, thank you. Amazing questions. Okay, so let me read the comments. Margaret, I think, says, your interpretation was pretty close to the situation. Two of us, and he thinks he is dieting, but really munches his way through the day and evening. Okay, so that was related to that other question, Margaret. I'm glad that that was helpful. Okay, see here. Okay, want to be anonymous, please. No problem. We have discussed before, still experiencing struggle with judgmental husband. I have health problems, and he says research shows sugar and dairy is making me worse. He won't stop nagging, and we fight a lot over this. I try to tune out since he does not seem willing to stop the comments. We both get emotional and very hurt. I feel bullied. He feels ignored and disrespected since he has a background in the health field. He yelled at me, you are choosing cookies over your health. Not sure if there is any solution. Needed to vent. I have explained a million times that restricting food makes me compulsive with food. Any more feedback? Thanks very much. So I know who you are, and I just want to give you a big virtual hug. This is a very difficult situation. Very difficult. This is a little different situation that Margaret shared earlier because your spouse isn't supporting you on your intuitive eating journey. The best thing is to state your boundaries. The best thing is to say, I'm setting boundaries around food and diet talk. I'm asking you to no longer comment or discuss anything about the food I eat, the food I choose not to eat, my health, or my body. And every time he passes that, what's the word I'm looking for? Every time he, give me the word, he doesn't respect your boundary, let's say that, you remind him. You say, put your hand up. Hold on. What did you just say? Now, what you can also do, because here's something I'm going to share with you. What you wrote here, I know you're being really vulnerable, and I appreciate that. You're saying, I feel bullied. That is a form of verbal abuse, being bullied. It's very important that he recognizes that. And I think that what you might do is write down on a piece of paper the things he says to you that make you feel disrespected and make you feel bullied, and the things that actually cause you to turn around and seek solace in food, right? And then you sit down with him and you read this to him, and you both sign a boundary agreement. You both sign an agreement that these are things that are off the table. We will not discuss it any longer. And anytime he says something that he doesn't abide by this agreement, you put your hand up and you say, stop. You say, what did you say? And let him, makes him feel like clearer that, oh, I'm invading your boundary. I'm not respecting your boundary. There's so much more we can talk about, but if you are really finding that your intuitive eating journey is being impacted in a negative fashion by this, then I encourage you to seek support. So let me know if that's anything that I can help you with. I'm going to just take a drink. That was a heavy conversation. Does anybody have any other thoughts for this particular poster? Nothing like cold water. By the way, if anybody doesn't have a Tervis water bottle, these are amazing. They're great. They keep the water cool for a long time. Margaret says she can relate. So that's another really important thing, C, who wrote this comment, knowing that you're not alone. And that's why community and support is so important. That's why when I read to you from my WhatsApp chat with my clients in the group, the ladies there, having support, sharing wins, sharing challenges, there's nothing like it. This is not easy. The journey, I will never tell anybody, is an easy journey. it's definitely not an easy journey because you're so used to, as a matter of fact, most of the women on last night's call said they've been dieting for years, decades. I think if I remember, one person was 10 years, other people, we were up to 50 plus years. So it's important to have support. So just like we're on a call here today, small group coaching, that's what is needed when you embark on this journey, because knowing you're not alone is something that is so key. So Margaret, I appreciate you posting that for C, so she knows she's not alone. Okay. All right, let me go to another question that was submitted, and then whoever's on with us, think of a question that you may want to ask me, and then we'll unmute and you can ask your question. I noticed a comment about the program, not for those with an active eating disorder. Can you please clarify? Example, would that include someone with acid reflux or needing to monitor fast post gallbladder surgery? Okay, excellent question. And I really appreciate you bringing that to my attention. So this particular writer is speaking and referencing the program page for Intuitive Eating Basics. So if you haven't yet seen that page, hey, Kelsey, can you pop the link there for people? intuitiveeatingbasics.com. And if you scroll down on the page, who is this course for? Who is it not for? One of the points, the course is not for somebody with an active eating disorder. That is referencing, and I think I'll go back and clarify on that page. So thank you for bringing it to my attention. That is referencing somebody who has currently an active eating disorder such as anorexia. So if somebody is with an active eating disorder, such as anorexia, they need a higher level of care. It doesn't mean that intuitive eating isn't appropriate for this particular individual, but they do need a higher level of care, maybe one-on-one, maybe outpatient, maybe a team of players, okay, healthcare people. So, and then the other part of this question was, does it include someone with reflux? No, medical conditions. So this is another really fantastic question. Intuitive eating is amazing for people who have food sensitivities or reflux or anything like that, because intuitive eating helps you get back in touch with your body. It really helps you to get back in touch, to understand, oh, when I ate this food last time, I got a little more reflux, or I wasn't feeling good. I had some belly pain. And so instead of, think about it this way, why do diets fail? Because somebody else is telling you what to eat, what not to eat, and how much to eat, as if they know who you are and they know what your belly is and they know your signals and they know what you respond to and what you don't respond to. No, the piece of paper, the diet book, the diet doctor, they don't know. Only you know. I don't even know what lies within your inner world. That's why I teach you to get back in touch with your inner self, so that you can then allow that to guide your eating. So I hope that answers the question. Awesome. I see you. Okay, great. So I want to clarify as well that this course, Intuitive Eating Basics, is for you if you've never even heard of anything I'm talking about now, and it sounds really interesting because you've struggled with your weight, you've struggled with dieting, you've struggled with food, and you want to, this is interesting, and you're like, you know what, this makes sense. Bring me back to the way I was when I was born. What a relief, what freedom, what peace I would have. This is going to give you 4 weeks of getting you started on this journey to understand, what is this diet mentality? Oh, if I say this or think this, that's part of diet culture. Oh, I understand. It's going to help you get back in touch with your signals, the signals that Bertha, we were talking about, the hunger, the fullness, and the various degrees in between. It's going to help you understand that your worth is definitely not tied to a scale, to a number. No, 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 no. Diet culture wants you to think that, but it's not. We're going to tap into what we call limiting beliefs. Beliefs that you hold around food, weight, body that cause you to self-sabotage. So have you ever been journaling along, journeying along, whether it was on your latest diet or your health kick and things were going great. And all of a sudden, bam, you're quote unquote off, like the dieter speaks. Has that ever happened to you? Think about that. Has that ever happened? Because yes, if it does, guess why? It's because of limiting beliefs. And we talk about that in this program, in this course. Really important. This is in 4 weeks, you're not going to now be an intuitive eater. Remember, when I'm working with a group in my Whole Body Trust program, that's actually a 6-month program. When I work with clients one-on-one, very often we get into other personal things, and that becomes almost a year of working. If you're dieting for 50 years, it takes time to undo all of that, but that's great, because what's 6 months? What's a year that'll give you freedom when you've been dieting and struggling for 50? My point is that you're going to make great strides in this 4-week program. That's why it's called Intuitive Eating Basics, because I want to give you a feel, a taste of what intuitive eating is, to start to get that trust back for yourself. And then at that point, I will share with you steps on how you can go further after that 4 weeks, if you choose to, how you can continue the learning. This basics program is yours for lifetime. You'll go back to those training modules. We're going to have a member area with a separate password just for you. And we'll record as I'm training you live. So similar to what we're doing here, every module is going to be live with slides. And then we're going to have special Q&A after every presentation. All of that will be uploaded into a member area for your access lifetime. So, okay, so C says, thanks, Bonnie, Margaret, for all the feedback and support. Excellent. You know, I'm always here for you. Rivka, because of a medical condition, I'm not able to exercise. Is this an issue with this eating? Oh, absolutely not. No. Look, exercise, Rivka, I'm not sure about your history with dieting. If you feel comfortable, can you pop into the chat box how many years you've been dieting for? If you're not comfortable, that's okay. But most people who've dieted, when they start a diet, they start exercise. They go off the diet, they go off the exercise. Okay? That's not what this is about. As a matter of fact, when I teach the entire Whole Body Trust program, when we go through the 6 steps, let me tell you, there's 10 principles of intuitive eating. 10 principles of intuitive eating that I actually weave through my 6-step program. And principle about movement and nutrition. Remember how we were talking with Bertha before about nutrition coming at the end when you're an intuitive eater? That's the same as exercise, which we actually call movement. Because if we still dieting, diet mentality, think we have to exercise or move our body as part of it, it's still dieting. So it's very interesting. Now, so let me see. Right. So Rivka, I'm not sure if that answered your question, but the answer is really no. What we work on is separating this out. So believing that eating and exercise have to go hands in hand in order to lose weight is part of diet mentality. What we're going to do is really begin to take back our power, right? We're going to step into our ownership by clearing the cobwebs of diet mentality, learn what our body is saying to us, remember our self-worth, get rid of some limiting beliefs. And then ultimately, when you feel ready to move your body in a way that's gentle, that's up to you. No one will tell you what you have to do. Rivka says, I gained weight because I was not able to walk much. Now that I've gained so much weight, I want to do something about it. So, right. So I understand that, Rivka, but what I share with you, and I shared on the webinar and will continue to share, is that intentional weight loss through dieting doesn't work long term. 95 to 97% of people who lose weight through intentional dieting and restriction regain that weight back. And the 3 to 5% that might keep that weight off do so with disordered eating behaviors, such as over exercising, not allowing themselves to eat ice cream. Bertha, ice cream. We love ice cream. And so that's not a way to live. So I respect your desire to lose weight, but what you want to really try to do is respect it, acknowledge this desire, but not intentionally act on it. Allow yourself instead to work on shifting the mindset, getting clear on the messages that diet culture gives you, really turning around your beliefs, connecting with hunger and fullness. When you do, and you work on habits and behavior changes, allow whatever weight is on your body that is not, how shall I say, it's not what nature intends, to just happen organically, to come off. So I have to make a very strong statement. Intuitive eating is not a weight loss program. There are many people out there on the internet that are promising you weight loss with intuitive eating. That's unethical. And that is coming straight from the authors of and the creators of intuitive eating, Evelyn Tribole and Elyse Resch. If somebody is promising you weight loss, they are doing something unethical. Will some people lose weight? Absolutely. Yes, I have plenty of clients that over time release weight. Will somebody gain weight? Well, if somebody comes into this process having suppressed weight for years through dieting and restriction, and they're actually below what their natural set point is, they may gain weight. And as a matter of fact, they really have to gain weight to become healthy again. But I will promise you one thing: when you become an intuitive eater, this up and down weight cycling will stop. And that, remember what I said when we first started? The weight cycling, the losing, gaining, that is worse for your health. So Rivka, I'm happy to talk more about this. If you have, if you want to talk about anything further after this session, I'll share my phone number. I'm very happy to have that conversation, because if you're, if you have any questions, is intuitive eating right for you? If you're unsure of it, then we can talk about it. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? I want to make sure, as we're topping the hour, I do want to make sure that I have a few more questions on my sheet here, which I'll talk about, but I want to make sure that I've answered any questions from anybody that is here with me live. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and just speak, or you can type it in to the chat box. I'll take a quick drink while I wait to hear from you. Sometimes it takes time when you're chatting, writing in the chat box. So in the meantime, I'll go ahead and read another question. Okay. Is measuring portion sizes ever okay? Example, I count out 15 almonds as a serving. So the answer to that is, when you count food, when you weigh food, when you measure food, that is reflective of the diet mentality and the diet culture. So ultimately, the goal is to allow your body to guide the amount of food you need. Now, I do recognize right now, you probably don't know what that is, but that's what we're going to do together. We're going to get you started on understanding, what does that little feeling in my belly mean? Or am I feeling hunger in my belly? Or am I feeling hunger in my head? Am I feeling hunger in my throat? What does that even feel like? To really get back in touch with all of these signals, for all the messages that your body gives you. And your body will ultimately tell you how many almonds. Now, obviously, we're not talking about take the jar of almonds and sit with it as you're watching TV and just, eat out of the jar, because mindfulness is very, very important. Another really important piece of us that I'm going to be teaching you in this course. When we talk about reconnecting with hunger and fullness, a very important piece of that is what we call mindful eating. And so I do go deeper into that as well. I can give you a really a good example. When, again, if you heard my webinar, you heard about my own dieting history. So this story is coming straight out of my own history. Okay. So when I was doing my dieting, but remember, I didn't think I was dieting. I was just eating a healthy meal plan, quote unquote. So I would always think to myself, okay, 2 clementines equals 1 fruit serving. So for those of you who've done exchange programs or things, you probably know what I'm talking about. Well, when I decided to give up dieting and to embrace intuitive eating. And remember, I incorporated it into my life before I ever brought it to any of my clients. So when that intuitive eater within me woke up, because you know when it'll wake up, it's a beautiful thing. And I was eating dinner, and after dinner, I really, my husband had just bought these amazing looking clementines. It was clementine season, and I love them. So I automatically took 2 clementines, put them by my plate, and I peeled one. I started eating it because, my mind was like, oh yeah, 2 clementines, that's the serving. I finished the 1 clementine and I paused and I said, wow, that was really so refreshing and juicy and it was great. I don't really want the other one. And I said, that's when it was like, light bulb. Oh, I don't have to eat the other one. I'm listening to my body. I don't have to follow pre-plans or said, well, this is a serving and that is a serving. I wanted one. I didn't want the second. The one satisfied me amazing. And I was like, excellent. Do you see what I mean? I hope that clarifies it for you. If I wanted the second one, I totally would have had it. No problem there. Okay. I want to open it. That's really the gist of the questions. A couple other questions were very similar to what I already spoke about. I'm going to open up the floor here to you guys. Does anybody have any questions around intuitive eating, hungerfulness, emotional eating? Is there anything that you would like to ask me? If you'd like, you can unmute and you can speak. You could be anonymous if you'd like to. Or you can use the chat box and I will look at the chat box. So as you're thinking about that, let me just remind you, back to what Bertha shared earlier, don't we need some guidelines? So what I have put together is an ebook. It's a book, an ebook, it's printable. It's called Food is Your Ally. I had to think of what it was called because I renamed it 3 times. Food is Your Ally. That's actually something I teach in my Total Food Freedom Emotional Eating program. We talk about food being your ally. Food is really very important. We want to really have a wonderful relationship with food because food is fuel and food keeps us healthy and food tastes nice, right? So Food is Your Ally recipe, menu and recipe book. What that is 36 nourishing meals that I put together in advance. So you've got, I believe it's 12 breakfast ideas, 12 lunch ideas, 12 dinner, 6, does that equal 36? So math's not my forte. Intuitive eating is, I think that's 36. And some snacks ideas with a couple of recipes for you, because I understand how eating to take care of your body is so important. And I understand that if you're coming off of dieting, you may feel like, oh my God, how do I eat? I don't know what to eat. So these menus are suggestions, again, very flexible. So you can eat yummy, delicious food as you're working on. Now, remember, that's part of self-care, because as part of our self-care, we do want to nourish ourselves as you're working towards dismantling diet culture and reconnecting with hunger and fullness. And this is yours if you do register and join us in the Intuitive Eating Basics program by 6 o'clock tonight. So that is actually only 1 hour from now, 6 p.m. Eastern. That is what I call a fast action bonus, because I know that a lot of people feel it in their gut. Like they're like, yeah, I really want to do this. I'm scared. Fear is a big thing. I get it. But I want to really give those people who are really taking a leap of faith and saying yes to themselves an extra bonus. So that is yours when you do sign up within the hour by 6 o'clock Eastern. Now, if you want to have more time to think about this course, that's totally okay. You have until this Friday, the 28th at 5 p.m. Eastern when the doors do close. Remember, the price for this program, I just want to share it with you. It's like $147. It's a crazy low introductory price. Again, if you think about my years of experience, which is over 33 years experience, and when I do one-on-one calls with people, it's a minimum of $250 an hour. I'm giving away 4 weeks of my intense training to you, and I'm happy to do it because so many people reached out to me to say, Bonnie, I know, your 6-month program sounds great, but it's a little too expensive for me. And I totally get that. It's been a really hard year and change for everybody. And that's why I worked so hard with Kelsey helping me to put this 4-week program together, to give you a taste of it, to really help you and get started. So will I run this program again? I'm not 100% sure I'm going to run it live again. If I do, I know it will be definitely more than I told you last night. It'll definitely be at least 197 the next time I run it live, or it might just be a self-paced course, but then there won't be the support and me teaching you. And I like it. I like meeting with you guys, and I like teaching you live. So I'm not sure. I'll probably run it live at some point again, but it will definitely be a whole lot more money. So I'm just being really honest with you, and that's how I am. I'm just super honest, and I want to help every single one of you. I hope that you allow me to do that. I love the people that I work with. We're like a family. We're all in this together. So if you really were ever considering a way for you to say, okay, no more diets, I really want to start to learn how to trust myself with food again, I would encourage you to just go to intuitiveeatingbasics.com and say yes to yourself. And if you do that by 6 o'clock, you'll get that bonus ebook with all those sample menus for you that I know are going to be delicious with some recipes. So are there any other questions that I can address right now? If there's anything else that anybody would like to share with me, I do want to congratulate those people who've already said yes to themselves for this course. I'm excited to get started with you. Just so you know, our first training is going to be on June 1st. I will look to see who's in our program, what are the time zones, so that I will be able to pick a time that most people are able to join us, or at least or change up the time so it's fair for everyone. Anyways, that's where we're at right now. Okay, so I appreciate everybody's time. It doesn't look like there are any other questions coming in. You can definitely, hey, Kels, can you,
Can I ask you something?
oh,
It's
who's that?
Rivka.
Yes, hi, Rivka.
Hi.
Wait, Kelsey, put my phone number in the chat box if anybody does want to call me after the talk. Yes, Rivka.
If I miss a session, would you be replaying it again?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. You might have missed it.
Here, yeah.
Oh, no, perfect. I'm glad you asked that, because I know, like, we have somebody who joined the program from the UK, and she's like, I might be sleeping when you do these trainings, so she's going to listen to the replay. So what will happen is we're going to meet on Zoom. I will do the live training. Everything is recorded. And then that recording, and then after every training, we'll have a Q&A session. Both the Q&A and the formal training will be uploaded to a member area. So I have a special website. It's not on social media, so no worries about that. The special website that I will upload all these trainings to. You will get a special password. You will have a link once you register. The email this coming Sunday, that's the 30th, I will be sending an email out to everybody who's registered for the course, because the doors close Friday. And then I'm going to take a little breathing space on Saturday just to chill out and relax. It's been a busy week. Sunday, you will get an email with a link that you will be able to join our community forum. And there will be a link to the member area where you can register a username and password. Right now, because I'm doing the trainings live, there won't be any trainings in there yet. There will be a little quick hello video, a form that I'll ask you to pick out to complete. But once we start on the 1st, which is Tuesday, so right after Memorial Day, Monday's Memorial Day, so right after, that first training will happen, and that will get uploaded by Monday night into the member area, and you will be able to listen. And I always actually encourage people to listen over and over again, because you can hear, when I train and review, you hear certain things, you have aha moments. There's action guides, by the way, so you take notes. There's PowerPoint slides you'll print so that you can take notes. And then you can go back, and when you listen to it again another time, you may be like, oh, I didn't hear her say that before. Oh, that makes so much sense now. You'll always have access to that.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, I do have another question. Let me go ahead and answer this question, and it might be helpful for everybody. How do you know whether hunger is physical? What are the hunger signals? What if you're not hungry, but shouldn't you eat something for energy a few times a day to avoid overeating later in the day? And if you are hungry, don't you still need to use rules to balance what you eat? Okay, so excellent question. So question number 2 and number 3, actually we answered earlier before you came on the call. So I would encourage you to go back and listen to the replay for that. How do you know when your hunger is physical? So, there are hunger signals, what I was explaining earlier. So actually, these are fantastic questions, which we really touched on quite a bit already. So let me give you a quick summary. And then I'm going to send this replay out. So I totally encourage you to go back and listen. Most people who are dieting don't hear what we call first signs of hunger, those gentle signals of hunger. So they hear hunger in a ravenous state, like, oh my God, I have to eat, I'm so hungry. And you're absolutely right. If you arrive at a meal in an over-hungry state, you will, without a doubt, quote unquote, overeat. And so it's about learning how to tune in and attune to the first signs of hunger, which have been silenced over the years. That is something that I teach you in the program. It's not something that I can teach right now on here, because first we have to really go through the diet mentality, the messages, because so many people actually say that. I love that you asked this question, because so many people will say, okay, Bonnie, I want to do intuitive eating. Teach me how to hear hunger. Teach me how to hear fullness. And I go, okay, hold on. That's a very important part of it. But the first thing we need to do is recognize that we might be turning that into hunger and fullness. And we don't, the hunger and fullness diet, and we don't want to do that. So we first want to tackle the diet mentality. And once we're clear on our thoughts and our beliefs, then we work into understanding what the body is telling us. And so you will learn what hunger feels like. And it feels different for everybody. So what we're going to go through is, what does hunger feel like? And where do I feel the hunger? Something we talked about a little earlier in this call. Does it fit? Is it in my belly? Is it in my head? Is it in my throat? Where am I feeling hunger? So you could tap into the hunger and to know when to begin eating. Very important. If you're not hungry, shouldn't you eat to avoid overeating? And again, and that ties into that question about rules to balance your eating. So, one of the ladies earlier asked that question. And again, I had answered that as far as, yes. So again, as a gist of it is, if signals have been silenced, sometimes we do need some flexible structure put in place. And that is something that I look at on a more individual basis for people. Do we need structure? It's not rules, but I love that you put it in quotes, because you're absolutely right. If you have guidelines about to eat, what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, what's healthy, what's not healthy, those are conditions on food. If you're sitting with a diet mentality, they do become rules for you. And then all of a sudden, if you have a trigger, an emotion, a situation, oh my God, I had a wedding to go to, I couldn't follow the rules, and you feel like you fell off the wagon. That's all falling back in the diet mentality. So yes, flexible structure is important for several and many people who really have haphazard eating patterns, but it's done in a way which is part of self-care versus here, eat like this. So I hope that clarifies it, but I would totally encourage you to please go back on the recording and listen, because I answered all of those questions very, very in depth as well. And these are absolutely things we're going to be tackling in the course, without a doubt. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I hope I answered that sufficiently for now. I'm on a little bit of a time crunch because I have a client call coming up. So that's why I'm referencing you back, please, to the recording, which will be processed and will go out. Okay, so we had some great questions that were submitted in advance and some questions that were present here. I really appreciate your time. Remind yourself, like, you're worth it, right? It's 5-day guarantee. If you really don't like any of this, show me you did the work. Action guides have to be submitted. Like it can't just be, I changed my mind. No, try it, do the work. If you really, after 5 days, want it, I'll return your money. But it's never happened, and I don't anticipate, because this will give you the freedom. This will give you peace. And remember what I said, it's a process. It's not going to be overnight. Being that this is a 4-week program, in 4 weeks, it's like, okay, I'm not a dieter, I'm an intuitive eater. You'll be well on your way, but it does take time. But I will support you throughout, and I will show you what more you could do after the 4 weeks to keep the learning going. Remember, it's a practice. Intuitive eating is a practice. Margaret brought this, we brought this up with a question Margaret had earlier. Intuitive eating isn't something you go on and you go off. Intuitive eating is a practice. Life throws us curveballs. So even when we're practicing intuitive eating, sometimes there's a curveball that life throws us, and then it's like, oh, I feel out of balance. What do I do? Can I still, practice intuitive eating? I need support. I need help. Well, that's what we're going to learn. How do we do that? There are roadblocks that will come in the path because that's life. How do we manage it? What strategies? So that's something that I'm hoping to help you with as well. All right. I want to thank you all for joining. Please, there's my phone number, or you can email me. Hey, Kels, can you throw my email in there? Bonnie@dietfreeradiantme.com. That's the email that you want to use, Bonnie@dietfreeradiantme.com. Shoot me an email. I'll be happy to respond if you need any clarification on anything. And just remember, if you want that ebook, Food is Your Ally, with those 36 delicious, nourishing menu ideas, you really do need to join by 6 o'clock to get that fast action bonus. So I really hope to see many of you there in the course. It's going to be amazing. And the doors do officially close on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Okay? All right.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.